Today's show is brought to you by BrowTog.com. BRAUTAG, the new BrowTog Premium Brewing System, is a high-quality Herm system developed by yours truly to take your brewing to the next level. And by yours truly, I mean Todd and James. The BrowTog consists of 3 premium stainless steel 20-gallon kettles, perfect for brewing 15-gallon batches, and each comes equipped with durable ball valves and easy-to-use stainless steel quick connects. The BrowTog controller is an innovative, no-nonsense controller developed to make your brew day better. It's easy to understand, which makes it easier for you to fully control the brewing process. Dial in your temperatures with ease and control the entire process at the flick of a switch or the push of a button. The BrowTog also comes with 2 premium centrifugal pumps and all the necessary cables conveniently labeled just for you. Go to browtog.com and learn more about our special introductory offer, which includes $500 off MSRP, free shipping, and a ton of free add-ons, such as a 15-gallon recipe kit of your choice, 3 packs of liquid imperial yeast, a premium refractometer, pH meter and testing kit, a 1-year membership to Brewer's Friend Premium, SandStep sanitizer, Brew Clean, and more. Head over to browtog.com to find a list of our retail partners and let us help make your brew day better.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Local homebrew supply shop closing, brewing with mystery hops, would you rather have good water or fermentation temperature control, and using commercial kegs for my homebrewed beer? This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 238. I was turning down the wrong one. Hello, and welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question that you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today I am joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com down there, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Chief Keg Washer of kegconnection.com, Mr. Todd Burns, again over my right shoulder. I don't care how he sees it on his screen. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, well, I'm on your left shoulder.
Oh,
hey, you know what?
My right shoulder. What?
I can't figure out which shoulder I'm on. You got a piece of that blue masking tape on your forehead again.
That's a hat. It's fat. This is called fashion, boomer. All right. This is
it's the hat band. Okay, it looks like a piece of blue tape on your forehead. I'm sorry.
Are we boomers, Todd?
I don't think y'all aren't.
No, we're not.
I think y'all are actually. Are y'all Gen X? What are y'all?
We're Gen Xers. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Todd's at the top of it. Let's be real here. Come on.
Yeah, I did this. This lady gave a speech one time for a company I worked for years ago, and she talked about all the different people, and she said I was definitely not a boomer. I'm somewhere in between the two, and I'm supposed to be a good conduit between those two groups. But the thing on boomers was hilarious. Some of the things like, they always have a list for everything. Guilty. So I guess I have that boomer trait. And then people have the great fear of something being put on their permanent record. Like, this will be put on your permanent record. You don't even know what that is, do you, Josh?
Well, what are you talking about? I have a record. I've got a permanent record. No, I actually, it's funny. This is totally off topic, but the other day, a friend of mine actually, he made it. I was talking about how not having tattoos is the new having tattoos, because I don't have a single tattoo. And he was like, yeah, kind of like not ever being arrested. Right. And I was like, I don't know if that's as common as you think it is. I don't know. I don't know a lot of people.
It's supposed to be.
I don't think it's
common.
supposed to be. He was like, "Oh, yeah, everybody's been arrested, right?" I was like, "I've never been arrested." And it's okay if you have. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, like, he made it seem like, "No, man, everybody's been arrested. Come on, don't you all have that? When I was arrested story." I was like, "I don't, man. I don't have that story." Yet, though, I'm barely middle-aged. Like, I've got a long time to go. I can get arrested. Trust me. We'll find a way. But no, Todd, I say boomer because I always forget what generation you are. That's the problem with generational tags. I just don't understand. Like, I think I'm a millennial, technically, born in 1985, but I don't know what I am, and I don't know if I'm supposed to care. I don't really care.
Let's ask Captain Google.
Yeah, there you go. As James is Googling it, welcome everybody to Homebrew Happy
Yeah,
Hour.
it does say technically that I'm a boomer, but this lady had another one in between.
I liked what this lady said better, though.
I definitely like it because I don't want to be a boomer.
It's like when my
But
mom.
I don't really want to be Generation X either. It's kind of a I don't know.
Want. You know what? It's 2021. You can identify as whatever you want, man.
That's true.
You do whatever
I
you
definitely don't want to be a millennial.
Todd,
God, I can't think of anything
Todd's
worse.
going to start wearing others.
Oh wait, half of our listeners are millennials. I love millennials.
Well, we probably have a great mix of millennial and boomer or probably y'all's not boom. Well, we do have older. You know, I guess my dad's a boomer technically in his 60s. But we have a lot of guys that are like 42 to 60 is like our core demographic. So let's not piss those guys off because then it's just to be our family listening to us again. And by our family, I mean my mom. Hey, Mom. This week for the small talk, I've got a few things. One, our July recipe kits have been decided. It is the Hop Fellas IPA and the American Amble Amber Ale, which, excitingly enough, the Hop Fellas IPA is being offered with that new Bartleby Kveik, say tomato, Brautag, however you want to say it. It's being offered with that. We're very excited. Joe told me that recipe. I've never brewed Hop Fellas, and I know, Todd, you like us picking recipes somebody in-house has done. He said Hop Fellas is very popular, and it's a delicious recipe, and he thinks the Bartleby, if they ferment it on the higher end, that it'll be a delicious kind of citrusy result for that IPA. And if they do it in like the 70s and have better temperature control, that it'll just be a deliciously clean IPA, which I don't know. I don't want to, I don't know about you guys, but when I drink IPAs, I actually prefer the cleaner, crispy IPAs. Like when I'm drinking them, I like for it to not be a hazy mess of mud water. And, but Todd likes that mud water.
I do. I'm kind of on a hazy kick right now. I've been buying several different hazy IPAs. I'm enjoying that milkshakey kind of hazy IPA taste.
Well, I don't know if we've already told the story on the show. I don't think we have, where there's a local brewery. I say local, where Todd and them live. Local is like 100-mile radius. So
yeah.
In Cisco, Red Gap, I believe, is the name of the brewery.
Yep.
And they make great beer. And Todd brought back their milkshake IPA, and he told me he poured it. And he goes, "What do you think to this?" I was like, "It looks like dishwater." Yeah, it's a milkshake. And he goes, "Go ahead and tell the story. You drank it."
Oh
first.
yeah, I was in their brewery and I had it, and it was just clear as it could be, clear as a bell, as they say. And so the owner was actually in there walking by. I hadn't met him before, and we were talking for a minute. And I go, "Hey, I hate to bring this up, but your milkshake IPA is not clear." And he's like, "Yeah, it kind of settles down. I think we need to shake the keg every once in a while." So somebody must have got, because the dip tube's on the bottom. I was thinking somebody got an extra milky IPA
after you left
at some point. So somebody took my milkshake, part of my milkshake IPA away.
Yeah. That which also, though, talking about your local breweries, we haven't done an episode yet because today's the 8th, since last week when we got to visit Teddy's, which was fantastic. How much fun did we have there?
It was a blast.
It was so much fun. They're very hospitable people. He gave us another kind of tour around all the gear that they have there. Wes is terribly fun to hang out with. Jeff was fun. It was all overall. I had a blast, and we tried to do an episode with them, and production issues, which is to say I messed up on capturing everything. So we're going to have to reschedule a time and have them actually on the show, especially Wes. No, nothing against Jeff. Jeff is a great guy, but Wes is blown me away with the beer he's making, man. Like, I don't believe I had a bad beer that whole time we were there. And he even gave us his experimental stuff. They did small batch, like that Czech dark lager.
That wasn't experimental. That was on their, they were serving.
The
one that was experimental was the Mexican cerveza, which
that was
let's give him hell. He's got thick skin.
The Mexican lager
tasted nothing like a Mexican lager.
It wasn't bad.
Actually,
though.
good.
Yeah. It was more.
It had perfect body.
It was
the body on it was perfect.
It was an IPL. It wasn't a Mexican lager. It definitely tasted more like an IPL. Very hop forward, but it wasn't bad. And it was a clean taste. And he was more embarrassed than he should have been. But, that's how brewers are, though. That's how we've been that way, too. Like, if I had a nickel every time James prefaced before I drank one of his beers, I'd have a lot of nickels. And every time I drink, I'm like, James, what are you talking about? This is great. It's not exactly what I wanted. Like, what exactly did you want, man? It tastes fantastic. I don't know how much more better it can get.
I hope nobody Googles Hop Fellows on our website, because I cannot get it.
It's all one word, Hop Fellas. HOPFELLAS. It's in the show notes.
No, I got it.
It's also in the show notes. Hop Fellas is a single hop IPA.
Okay. It's like a smash kind of.
Right. Centennial is what it uses. Like I said, Joe said it's delicious. And I asked him, I said, what do you think for that Bartleby? I'd like to, it's Imperial's seasonal right now. I'd like to showcase it because what Imperial does with their seasonals, if you don't enjoy it when it's offered, you miss out. You don't get to enjoy it. It's not year round. And this kind of strain will probably not make their annual rotation since they already have these Norwegian strains in rotation. But,
right.
But Joe said, I think this one, he read the description on Bartleby and he's like, I really think Hot Fellas is the one to make it shine. So,
wow, I want to brew that. So it is, I said it's not a smash. It's got multiple grains, but it just has one hop.
Right. Yeah. And I know what you meant. I wasn't even correct. I was just saying it's not single malt. It's just single hop. But like I said, in that American Amble, I'm surprised we've never done that because that's one of Homebrew Supply's most popular recipes.
I've brewed it before.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay,
yeah.
The only ambers I remember brewing were when you did, or maybe James did the Fat Tire clone. That was you, wasn't it, James?
Yeah.
And that turned out great.
I've brewed it several times. Todd's brewed it.
It's a great recipe, and at Teddy's Brew House, his amber is a very close tasting wise to a Fat Tire, which is a compliment. I mean that in the best way. It was a really good beer. I took home some Kolsch and I was like, man, maybe I should have taken home that amber. But the Kolsch at our 4th of July party went over very well. It was delicious. It's just good beer, which makes it a lot more enjoyable when you go to a brewery and you can just say, yeah, bring me whatever, and you're going to enjoy it. Because they just got done with their New England IPA, so I knew that wasn't going to be an option. So
I wonder, it's probably on tap now. Yeah, because they were out of it when we were there.
They were out of it, and that's why when they're like, "What do you want me to bring you?" Oh, surprise me, because the rest of them were like German beers. Like I knew none of them were going to be over the top, punch me in the face with something I didn't like. They don't have sours there. They don't have IPAs there, or not at the time they didn't. So. It was great. But anyway, other small talk. That's about all I have, actually, is just for our recipe kits. Again, the Hop Fellas IPA with the Bartleby strain, Kvik, however, and the American Amble Amber Ale.
Kvik.
That's right.
What we're going to
call it.
We're always
going to call it that.
Kvik.
And that American Amble ships out with Imperial's flagship. So if you want to learn more, go to homebrewhappyhour.com/club or go directly to patreon.com/homebrewhappyhour to see all the different tiers and ways that you can support our efforts. Again, we greatly appreciate everyone who's in our Trub Club, whether you are a paying member and you're receiving recipes or you're just contributing in our social media and stuff. We greatly appreciate you, which is my segue to one of our buddies, Bennett, who's in our Trub Club. He wrote back for some listener feedback. Let me get the amazing bumper I spent 90 seconds on. It's time for listener feedback. And every time, I know you'll love it. And Bennett this week, he wrote, hey, the black and tan segment is black and tan is traditionally Guinness and Bass. However, the history of black and tan goes into the struggle of Ireland with the British Empire. The British soldiers who were stationed in Ireland wore a uniform that resembled black and tan, and that's where the name comes from and why the Guinness represents Ireland and Bass represents the British. On a personal note, after learning that history, I stopped drinking them on principle. Thank you for the history lesson. I've never had one anyway, so I guess I can just say I'm principled. It's it's kind of like when people tell me with shopping, they're like, we can't go to Walmart because of X, Y, and Z or whatever. I'm like, I haven't shopped at a Walmart in forever, but it's not on principle. It's just because I hate leaving my house. So yeah. I'm with you, man. Whatever. If anyone wants me to join their cause, I'm usually down for it. But
you really look good when you do that too, with your black shirt on.
I do, right? I do. Like.
The Kolsch Cup cause.
The Kolsch Cup cause. Oh, that's the cause I'm always down for. That is, before I get into the questions, I have had a lot of people ask, when's our next competition? The answer, friends, is I don't know. I still want to do an alt beer one, but James thinks that it might be more hassle than not.
I don't know if we'll get the turnout we saw with
Kolsch. Yeah, well, Kolsch.
I think we should do one at your house. And you should get all the bottles of beer and organize the whole thing.
Wait, I did organize it last time. What are you talking about? I just didn't receive them.
Perfect.
Yeah, you want me to rent me a P.O. box in San Marcos, and I will absolutely make sure that they get here. I'd be happy to receive the beer. If we don't do alt beer, we have to think of a style that we can judge. Maybe a German Pilsner cup. We can figure out a way. I'm trying to think of beers that we all
shake IPAs or hazy IPAs. I guess we could do it a double category.
Okay. Let's do a. You know what? I'm not against that. Joe would absolutely be coming
Joe
back.
Would have to take my place.
Joe would have to.
Sure.
I don't really
non-negotiable.
I don't really like him that much. I just enjoy taunting y'all.
Yeah,
with
kettle sour cup. There we go.
Kettle sour IPA.
Yeah, kettle sour cup rolls off the tongue like Kolsch Cup.
It does sound good.
It does. No, well, I know what you meant by sound good, but it doesn't sound good. Anyway, we've got 4 fantastic questions for you this week. First one coming from our buddy Tom from Illinois, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Tom wrote, my local homebrew supply shop is closing, sadly. It has been nice being able to see the grains before going home with them, getting them cracked fresh, and not worrying about my pouch of White Labs dying in a shipping box. The closest shop now is several hours away, and they do not sell online. I understand you'll have some bias if you answer my question, but I'd still like to know, what do you think I should do when choosing an online store for ingredients? I'm in Illinois for what it's worth. Tom. We are a little biased, Tom. You should go to kegsconnection.com and use promo code HHH and get 5% off your order. No, first,
we're not that biased. You could go to homebrewsupply.com as well.
See, options.
Oh, yeah, with options. Yeah, either one of those. And pick up a brow tag while you're at it. We got a box truck. I'm hand delivering these brow tags nationwide now. Let me start by saying this. It's relevant, but it's not to this question necessarily. We went to a homebrew con about 4 years ago. I don't know if y'all remember when we sat in on the industry track and they were talking about state of the industry, right? For homebrewers, retail stores. And one of the most heartbreaking things for me, and I mean this sincerely, I don't know if you remember it, Todd, how many local brick and mortar shops refuse to go online. Refuse to sell online. Remember how dead set they were, guys, on no, all we're doing is we have our local market and that's all we need.
I mean, I understand it though. I mean, I think that it's an economy of scale when you sell online, and it's a lot of effort, and it's not, I don't think that, I think a lot of homebrew shops that are local, if they tried to sell online, they'd just be spinning their wheels. In fact, I feel like I'm spinning my wheels most days when I sell online. It's a very, very difficult business. And it's not a business that's growing right now. So it's not a business that's easy to do, period. And I think we're unfortunately, unless we get more people into homebrewing, we're going to see more of that happen. So.
I have had questions from people. Like, there's always the two kinds of questions people ask that are similar, where it's like, I'm ready to go. I'm a home brewer and I want to pro brew. What do you recommend? And I've also seen questions about, hey, I like it so much and there's not a local shop. What do you think about opening up a brick and mortar? And to the second question, I usually tell them, take your money and put it in a newspaper. Open up your own newspaper and printing press. It's 2021. I think those are going to do well. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? It's the same principle where it's like even the pro brewery thing. It's both of those. The answer to those, like, man, if it's your passion, you're going to probably end up starting to hate it at some point if that becomes your job. But but with Tom's situation with online. And understanding our bias, I would say, especially in the liquid yeast part, he made it a point to talk about how he orders White Labs liquid yeast. Most websites, ours included, Keg Connection, Homebrew Supply, you have an option to get extra ice packs. Now, I don't know what the standard is with every company. With liquid yeast, we always ship them out, at least with one, but we always recommend in these months, especially, to put an extra one. It's 99 cents. You get two. They sandwich the pouch between these things. And usually that secures it to get to you and still be viable and ready to go, probably without having to do a starter, but you could do a starter to be safe. Everything else, Todd, I took the question mainly because I was going to make jokes about all the stuff I was with delivering me personally with the box truck, but you have the experience here. Like, what do you think someone should look for? Is location number one? Like, hey, what's closest to me, or what do you think?
To me, if I'm ordering online, it'd just be like if I was ordering anything else online. It's not really location. It's customer service. How well you're going to get taken care of. If there is an issue, God forbid. I think that's the most important thing from anybody I order from online. It doesn't matter what the product is what's the customer service going to be like? How are they going to treat me? And, hopefully you get the order. It doesn't matter because you get the order and everything's fine, right? That's the way it usually is.
Good point.
I don't think that, one advantage of buying from some of the online companies too, are larger stores, is you get a lot of flip on the grain. So, we get grain in every week. We're going through grain every week. Our grain is almost never very old at all. You might have a real small specialty grain that you use a quarter of a pound in every recipe, and that might sit there for a couple months. But then, interestingly enough, those are probably the ones that matter the least, because they're the ones that have been they're probably the ones that have been baked pretty hard, right?
Right.
So, but you're definitely going to get, that's one advantage, is you're going to probably get fresher grain for the most part. So I don't know. I mean, I'm very biased, so it's difficult for me to answer the question.
It is. Well, you know what, though? He wrote it in, and it's no secret that obviously, we are kegconnection.com and homebrewsupply.com. But I will say, to at the risk of sounding infomercially, one of the things that I love the most about our company, and when people ask, well, why should I go through you? We wrote a flyer that goes out with every single order that I think, tells our company's story. I like supporting mom and pop shops as much as I can locally. When my wife and I shop, when my wife shops, I support restaurants locally. That's one reason I'll leave my house, friends. I'll leave my house for some good Mexican food. But I like supporting, like I said, mom and pop operations. I think what we can offer at Keg Connection is the customer service experience, like Todd said. That's what's kept Keg Connection alive since before I ever started working for you, was your stupid customer service. And I mean that in like the most complimentary way of, like, Todd will go above and beyond to rectify an issue if one occurs, to the point where sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, you're really bending over backwards. It's the right thing to do. And, if you had a soul, Josh, you would feel that way too, and blah, blah, blah. But I know what I mean. To get through this question and get to the next one, I'll say, Tom, there are a lot of options on there. So just prioritize what is important to you. Most pricing from companies is worth comparing, and it's probably comparable. Location for shipping might matter. But most people, again, use the same carriers, and it's going to be pretty, you're getting a lot of the benefit of the saturated market is a lot of the pricing is going to be the same. And so you can whittle it down to whatever check marks you need, like what matters to you the most. Like Todd said, if customer service is what we pride ourselves on, and that's what's kept us alive in this competitive market for 15 years. So,
and if you need somebody to beg for your business, we're willing to do that as well.
We're not above that.
We're not above very much, right,
Josh? No, are you kidding? Like I said, Todd has offered me to deliver the brow Todd. So he's like, if you'll buy it, I'll send him there. He'll assemble it for you.
We'll throw glass down on the floor and have him go on his knees the last.
You know what? In my contract, it said, and miscellaneous duties. It's amazing what falls under miscellaneous duties.
There's a lot. You probably should have had me explain that in writing a little more of what that was going to be.
I should have had a lawyer look it over before I dropped out of college. Anyways, Tom, thank you so much for submitting your question. This is a great time to remind you all, if and when we take your question on a future episode, we do give you a $25 gift certificate to kegconnection.com. So there, we already know he's going to go to kegconnection.com, at least for one order, because he has the gift card. But anyways, thank you so much for submitting your question. Moving on to question number 2, came from our buddy Brent, who also used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Brent wrote, "Hey guys, I love everything you do on your YouTube channel, and my only complaint is that you don't push out even more videos throughout the week. Recently, a close friend of mine was given and then gave to me a large bag of unidentified hops. My nose is definitely not good enough to pinpoint what I've got, but I can't let them go to waste, right? What do you suggest we do with this pound of mystery hops? Should we brew a pale ale and use these for bittering and aroma, or not use it for anything but bittering? I'm not sure. Help, Brent." This is a James question if I've ever heard one, because James is no stranger to mystery beers or not maybe not mystery ingredients, but you've been no stranger to just throwing stuff together, and whatever the end result was is what we had. So what do you think?
I don't know. The wrong hop can make or break a beer. It really can. So if you don't know what it is, if it were me personally, I would probably just throw it in the trash.
Wow.
As expensive as grains are and your time and energy, there's nothing more disappointing than, I'm telling you, the hops is a big deal to me.
That's a good point.
The bitterness and the aroma and all of that, if you get any of that off, it's just not drinkable. And the potential of that is not worth the risk, in my opinion.
Todd or James, is there a way to, if you have no idea what these are, is there any kind of way to identify them, I guess?
I mean, you can taste them and try to see if you've got other hops around, try to see if you can tell at all if they're more bitter than maybe the other hop you have. The aroma, you could smell them and maybe use them for an aroma hop. What I would do is just make a smash IPA out of them and just throw them all in the bitter with some grain and brew a 5-gallon batch from hell with a pound of hops in it.
James is giving you such
I know. That whole thing I just said was just to get under James's skin.
It worked.
And it looks like it worked.
I was going to say, well, I am surprised to hear James ever say throw away ingredients, but you're right. In this circumstance,
I just wouldn't take the risk.
It's hard to take the risk when it could ultimately be a huge waste of your time.
Yeah. Think about it this way. When Todd was buying grain for us and putting in his little Nissan, and we were buying 200 pounds at a time, it was 69 cents a pound. Retail, and now it's like almost $2 a pound. So, you can get good deals, but it's double the price than it used to be. So I just don't know if it would be worth risking a batch of beer and fermentables on something you don't know what it is. It could be Magnum hops, and what happens if you over hop it and the bittering units are through the roof? You'd be safer on the aroma side. But if they're not a real aromatic hop, and you put too much in there, then you end up with grassy tasting beer. So I don't know. I mean, people will probably disagree with me, but I just wouldn't take the risk.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some listener feedback for next week's episode. If you were given mystery hops, what would you do? Because I think the three of us are on the same page. We wouldn't risk it. And I say that knowing our situation, if you sent us, Brent, this bag, we would go up to the brew room, the upstairs, and do our best to compare and identify what it is to try to pinpoint it, right? Like that's what we would do because
you could do a hop tea on the stove if you wanted to. I mean, that would be a good way.
That is a great
testing the bitterness of it. Boil it for an hour in a quart of water. And get your ratio right, and then you can figure out whether it'd be good for bittering, and then you could do the same thing short term for aroma if you wanted to spend that kind of time to figure out what it is.
Todd, when I said we, I meant you or James. I wouldn't. I mean, I would ask you guys, oh, what is it? And then, let James do the work because he's a nice guy. But Brent,
not always.
No, yeah, you're right. Not always. I know. I've seen that version. Brent, if you end up brewing something with this, send us 3 bottles and we will happily taste it on a future episode and be a judge and let you know, like, yeah, oh, nope, should have thrown it away. Definitely should have thrown it away. I do like, he did say pale. Is that, when we were doing those hop testing, and I don't know, Brent sent this question recently, so I don't know if he said pale because of what we were doing with testing hops with Lorena's base recipe. Is pale ale, James, the safest kind of easy palate beer to test hops with, or what would you say?
There's a little bit of caramel malt, not a whole lot. It's pretty standard for that's what Lorena come up with. For our hop test.
James, there's a little bit of caramel malt in 6 of the recipes.
Oh, shut up!
Excuse me.
Shut up! I know. That mine were at the bottom of a bag that I opened and emptied.
The worst part.
I forgot about that.
The worst part was that I looked right in his face and said, "Are you sure you put all the grain in there?" And he said, "Of course I put all the grain in there. Why would you ask me a stupid question like that?"
You know what, too? I do have to work on how I respond to you because, one, it's rude and you're my boss. My mom's told me that before. She goes, I watched the show. Your dad has shown me you're so rude to Todd. Why? He's such a nice man. Why are you so rude to him? But also, it always bites me in my butt, man. Every time I'm pompous, it comes back to me. Every time.
I've done it too.
Every time. And Todd should have. I'm surprised I didn't bet him $5. Oh, you want to bet $5? Of course I put all the grains in. What did I just pay you $5 for? Not that, I mean, in cash in your office. I was so confident. Oh, it was a video we were editing for. That's what it was. You said, "Oh, this is the timestamp." I was like, "I'm looking at it, Todd. That's not the timestamp." You're like, "Are you looking at it on YouTube?" I was like, "No, but it wouldn't be any different than it is in my video editing software." He goes, "I'll bet you $5." I go, "Oh, of course I'll bet you $5." 10 seconds later, I'm pulling $5 out of my wallet. I was so unsatisfied for $10, man, or $5. I mean, $5. But anyways, yes, Brent. You know what I was thinking too during that whole rant just now. Could I've heard of people testing hops with, like, they get a bud, right? And they pour.
Clay did
That's
that.
who it was.
He'd get a Bud Light and then would put a couple of
pellets,
hop pellets or flowers in it and let it sit. But I think a hop tea would be a good effective way of checking the bitterness. And then you could do a short, like get it boiling, cut it off, and then do just a short try, like a aroma hop, and see what it smells like. I mean, I guess you could do that if you wanted to spend the extra time.
Right, like you said, it is time. If you didn't want to mess with it at all, it might not be worth. It might. It might be best to just throw it out. But if especially because it was free, right? Like that's a main part of this too. Like I hate wasting stuff too, but I'm a man of. What's the nice way to say I'm lazy? I'm lazy, and I don't know if I would go through all that trouble to go, oh, okay, it's Magnum, or whatever. Yeah. But again, my situation's maybe not the same as everyone's. Getting a pound or whatever. Well, he just said a large bag.
The other part of it is, what if you use it and it's the best beer you ever brewed before? and then you can't replicate
can't
it. So you can't win no matter what happens,
it's
right?
a lose-lose, Brent. It's a lose-lose. But anyways, that's a great question. We appreciate you submitting it, Brent. And moving on to our third question of this week, it came from our buddy James B., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. James wrote, "Hello, Todd, Josh, and fellow James. I am a longtime listener, even during the early days, so you're welcome, Josh. I'm sorry, James. Both of you, Jameses. My brew pal and I were discussing which is more important, having good water or having precise temperature control during fermentation. I argued that good ingredients can be totally ruined by bad water, no matter how flawless the brewing or fermentation went. My friend thinks that most water available to the average homebrewer is acceptable, therefore, it isn't necessary to use reverse osmosis or other filter systems, and having a fermentation chamber is a much better way to spend money. I want to hear your opinions, and I want a gift card. Smiley face, James." Yeah, people are very brazen now about, and I get it. I told you, we had another guy join our Chub Club. It's like, I don't listen to the show. Y'all pick decent recipes every month, and it's a cheap way to brew. I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. I don't. Your reason. Yeah, I don't listen to the show either, man. We're on the same page. So answering this James's question, if you can't have both, because my answer would be both. You need good water, and you want temperature control. Why does it have to be one or the other? But if you're upgrading one first, James, what are you going with?
Water.
Yeah, Todd, what are you going with?
Water. I can't brew with water I have at my house.
Well, hold on. We'll elaborate on that. For Todd, what would you pick? And then we'll elaborate.
I don't know. I've never had bad water where I brewed, so I haven't had a lot of experience with brewing with bad. The water in San Marcos is really good. It always brewed good beer, and then the well water brews good beer. But I still much prefer to brew with reverse osmosis because I'm starting with a clean palate. I think if you had really bad water, you would just consistently have crappy beer, though.
Yeah, James was raising his hand.
40 gallons of beer with bad water. Yeah.
Tell that story.
It was terrible.
How did that happen? I mean, you didn't ever test the water before using it?
Well, the first batch of beer we did was the boat ore beer that tasted like Copenhagen. The second batch of beer, which we figured out that was the stain off the boat ore leaching into the beer. Then we got to taste it. So it was a combination of bad well water with high solids. I mean, super high solids, lots of calcium and lime. And then when you take that boat ore taste out, you really tasted the water. It was not drinkable. So what we ended up doing, we didn't have a RO water place anywhere around at that time. So we would take big barrels and we would go into town to Gary's house, fill at his house, because he had good water, and then truck it back into Duster. And, we'd have to get twice as much water because we spill half of it by the time it made it back to the barn. So I learned a long time ago, you got to have at least decent water to brew beer. But, if you don't have temperature control, you can still ferment at room temp and create pretty darn good beer. But I don't know if anybody can say you can create darn good beer with bad water. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a loaded question because, it's either or. Well, if you have really good water, then spend the money on the other thing. If you have really crappy water, then you need an RO system. So I think it depends on your situation.
Yeah, and you're right, and that is a good point. And I think his friend saying that most people probably have acceptable water is probably anecdotal because me and my dad having good water will be like, yeah, everybody probably has good water. Not even thinking like James, who you can't brew good beer with the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally you can't drink it.
Right. That's what. Yeah, exactly. Where. Yeah. Good. I think we're on the same page, guys. Where water has to be. It doesn't have to be on profile. Like I don't have to have the Rhine or whatever category of water you have to make a Kolsch doesn't have to be the exact profile to what they have in Cologne, but you got to have good clean water and by clean I don't just mean potable. I mean,
I'm just sitting here You said Rhine, because of course the Rhine runs right through Cologne. I could just see him pulling water out of the Rhine. It
Unfiltered.
Looks like, It's like really nasty. It's really brown.
No, this is what they use, guys. This is my authentic Köln Kolsch, obviously. Which are y'all going?
I'll tell you this. My water was so bad. Todd actually called one of the companies, Selecto, and he was like, he told Todd, he says, we don't have a filter for that.
What?
You remember that, Todd?
Yeah,
you actually called. I'm a geek enough to have my water profile on my phone. So
wait, so
water's really important if you don't have good water.
But for you,
that was actually really funny when he was. One time we were at a trade show, and you were talking to Logic.
Rick.
Rick. Rick. God, I couldn't think. Sorry, Rick. I couldn't think of his name for a second there. He goes by two names too on his email. That's always confusing. Yeah. So anyway, he's like, well, what you should do is you got to look at your water profile, maybe get it tested, and you just immediately pull your phone up. Here's my water profile.
Yeah, you did.
I've never 100 people. If you ask them that, nobody would ever have their water profile on their phone, right?
Yep. He has his pictures of his kids, a picture of his dog, his water profile, and a bunch of ladies' phone numbers, and that's James's wallet.
Right. That's right.
Oh gosh, he was a little shocked that I had that on hand, and then he nailed the problem immediately when he looked at it. So,
Rick knows his stuff. Rich,
he's a good guy.
Wait, but your water's still like that right now? Like
I switched to city water now. It's extremely expensive because I live out in BFE. I mean, it's extremely expensive. My water bill is more than most people's sewer and garbage and water bill, and then double that. And that's usually what I pay. I had a $175 bill month before last, and it's just me and Emily.
Todd was giving me crap because my water bill was $72 last month. He goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I got 3 daughters and a wife, and they all bathe."
I think I was giving you crap about your grocery bill. I think.
Yeah. Oh well, that too. No, that too. We spend like $1,200 a month on groceries, not counting my Starbucks habits. So I mean, it's a good thing I make a ton of money. But anyways, that's not what this show is about. James with James B, not James C. I think it's hard to overcome moderately poor to really poor water. Right? Like my dad and I have never done an actual test on our water, his well water, which we probably should, but we haven't because it keeps making good beer. We've made good beer. We've made bad beer, but that wasn't because of the water. That was because of other mistakes. When your water's in check, it's a lot easier to then start making consistently good beer. If you have your temperature control in check and not your water, if that's the argument, right? We're picking one. We're picking decent water or fermentation temperature control. I'd say you're going to make your better beer when you have better water, even if you're fermenting in a closet. Like Todd, still frequently you ferment in a closet or the spare bedroom all the time in those buckets. But I have the most awesome setup because I have a split air unit in there, and I can set the temperature exactly where I want it, and it's only that little tiny room that it puts it in. Okay, you're right. That's not the same as a closet. Sure. It does get cold.
It's double insulated, and I mean
I can say I want to ferment at 67 degrees, and I can keep it right at 67 degrees. It's awesome.
I bet I wouldn't be surprised if you could get that down in the high 50s. If you put one of those socks under the door, if you had to, you could probably log her in there.
God. Oh, that would be fun.
Well, that's what my friend Rob did at his place. He put in a walk-in and then he put in one of those bots.
It's CoolBot.
CoolBot.
Yep.
CoolBot.
Yep.
And he has a CoolBot that has taken over the thermostat, so it will bring that split unit down into the to the fridge temperatures.
Oh wait, CoolBots also work with mini splits?
Yes.
You know what? My office here is 150 something square feet. that mini split, I keep it in here at like 75 and it's freezing and it gets cold quick. I should get a cool bot and we could start fermenting. I could start lagering here in my office.
Yeah.
That's I'm trying to figure out.
We'll know because you'll be doing the podcast
with my sweater
in the middle of the summer with a parka.
You're right.
in a knit hat.
Yeah, Josh, what are you doing? Lagering. I have been. I'm trying to work on my wife. So she let me. I have a tie bag, which is like a punching bag and kicking bag, and I have in her treadmill and other exercise stuff. I was thinking, what's more fun, like getting in good physical shape, or I could move all of that and put a Brautag right there on that back wall and start brewing here at home too. Because I'm having a hard time convincing my dad we need the system there at the barn, or not the barn, in his outbuilding. Pardon me. I'm having a hard time making him see the light. Like, Dad, brewing year round, indoors, electric, and then we're gonna get a conical and this or that. He's just seeing like, well,
why don't you have Scott come brew with us on it sometime?
I'd love that idea. Yeah, I would say this next trip, but my car's going to be full of your nephew, my two my daughters, and my dog, and all of our stuff. So he can't come probably this trip.
Good. You're bringing your dog. I like your dog.
That's the plan right now, but he's recovering. We just chopped his balls off yesterday. So
he'll be fine. He'll be fine next week.
He's as loving as labs, I'm told, are. He seems mad at me. He seems kind of pissed.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
We should try it on you and see if you get mad at me.
Hey, I got my vasectomy. I was.
Yeah. You've already had yours cut off.
Ask my dad. The first thing I said when I walked out of there, he was like, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "This is so stupid. Why did I do this? This was so stupid." It was regrettable. But anyways, I'm digressing again. James, thank you so much for submitting your question. We have one final question for this week's show. Came from our buddy Derek, and he texted it to our hotline at 325-305-6107. Derek wrote, "I'm making the switch from bottles to kegs. I was given 2 kegs that used to have Bud Light in them. Will these work if I try to use them for my beer, or should I use ball-locked kegs instead?" Derek, I have no experience with Sainty kegs. I believe James does with homebrew. What is your recommendation if someone has the ability to use Sainty kegs or use corny kegs?
I would use corny kegs. Sankey kegs are so hard. You got to take the spear out. Sometimes that requires special tools. They can be dangerous if you put them together wrong. And plus, they may not even be legally owned by the person giving them.
I was just about to say that. I was just saying, Derek, I'm no snitch. I'm not giving your phone number out because I got it. Well, I'm no snitch. But it's probably not legal for the kegs that you got. If it was a friend that gave them to you and not the distributor or the brewery, and not even then, the way in Texas, breweries don't even own those kegs, right? Like,
no. I mean, he said they had Bud Light in it. They're owned by Budweiser. I mean, that's their kegs.
Okay. Well, right. And so in the 3-tier system, the distributors don't own the kegs. The brewery owns the keg. It's not just
if you get Budweiser owns.
I got you. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
And they do like a $30 deposit, and they cost them $140. I mean, it's stealing. Yeah.
So let's assume that it wasn't theft, and Anheuser-Busch himself, Adolf Busch, or whoever was, came.
Adolf, yes.
Adolf, good buddy Adolf, came out of the grave and gave Derek these 2 commercial kegs and said that you can have these. It's totally legal. You still, James, wouldn't use the commercial keg? Like cornies are just that much easier?
They're more trouble than they're worth, and it's definitely worth buying some ball lock kegs or pin lock kegs
or pin lock. Yeah.
Any they're easier to clean. You can get parts for them. I would all day long go with, regular soda kegs.
Well, Todd, I took this question too to plug because Derek, he sent this in a couple weeks ago. He texted it that right now, Pinlock kegs specifically, if you're switching over to kegging, you're going to need a keg kit, and you can get Pinlock kegs like half off right now at kegconnection.com during the sale. If you go to any keg kit and you do the drop down, now the Pinlock kegs ship out with the kit for half price. So that's $39.95 a keg.
So I'll let the cat out of the bag since you're going to publish this today or tomorrow, right?
Today, like an hour from now. Yeah.
Josh is going to work on a sale right now that we will have both Pinlock for half price and converted, which are originally a Pinlock keg, but we put a brand new lid with a pressure relief valve on it, and we put a brand new post on there, and we convert them over to ball lock. And there's two advantages to that. One, they're a little bit shorter, and then the disconnects are can be a little bit shorter. So you have to have less height for them. And then two, obviously, you got a lot of new components on there. So you're starting with a brand new lid and a brand new pressure relief valve and brand new posts and brand new poppets and brand new O-rings. And they're pretty good. They're a pretty good keg. So Josh, you're now fully committed to getting that done.
The pressure. Why would you do that? Because I have tasks that I've said, oh, get done this week. And then people message me like, hey, is that done? Like, hey, why are you asking 20 questions? You're not my boss. And then it is actually you emailing me. And I'm like, oh, sorry, boss. Yes. Back to Derek's question. But yeah, so the sale it'll be ready soon, I'm sure.
If it's not live by the time the podcast publishes, it will be a live sell on Friday.
Oh yeah, Friday is what we were planning on doing. Yes, tomorrow, Friday.
Bad things will happen to Josh.
I was going to say the plan. Well, I thought you were just telling me it had to be today, where we had just literally before the show started said, "Yeah, we'll launch that part Friday." That's why I was scrambling in my brain right now. I was like, I'm going to have to.
Josh, I don't think he realizes tomorrow's Friday.
No. I know. Shut up. I know. I was going to delay the publishing of this show till Monday, and then I'd be like, "Whoa, we said today on the show that published on Monday. We said today." Back to Derek's question real quick before we wrap up this show. Isn't there also, correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, isn't there some more safety issues with Sainties in regards to the pressure and like you have to be a lot more cognizant of when you're dealing with them?
Well, people have taken them apart before thinking they were depressurized and they weren't depressurized, and they ended up hurting themselves because a projectile, it's called an air gun, right? It sent a projectile into them, and that could be very dangerous. So, always be careful with a pressurized vessel. Don't assume that it's not pressurized.
Exactly. And I feel that way about every pressurized vessel. I am, as Todd knows, I am terrified of pressurized
that's
vessels.
one thing about a corny, whether it's a Pinlock or a ball lock, you can't get the lid out of them without depressurizing it because you just don't have enough strength. You're basically, if it had 20 psi in it, you don't have enough strength to push down on 20 psi. Now, if it has 3 psi, you might be able to push it down, but then it's just going to go because there's not enough pressure to do anything. So yeah, that's what makes them so safe, is that you cannot open them if there's pressure in them.
Right. That's what I remembered as well.
Whereas with a Sankey, you're unscrewing something, and if you unscrew it, it'll just run into a problem.
Yeah. And it really is. I know we used to also get questions about kegs remember when China flooded the market with a bunch of untested non-NSF kegs? And I'm not saying NSF is always a fail-safe, like, oh, it's NSF approved, now it's not going to blow up on you. But remember, there were people who had issues with those soda kegs coming in the market because they weren't tested and they weren't sealed properly. And I don't remember them exploding proper, but like the lids were blowing off on people, isn't that what was happening to some people in our country that was trying them? I'd have to go back on the old Google.
I don't remember.
But there was issues with them. But like Todd said, either way, regardless of which type of vessel you're using, you need to be very safe when it's pressurized. And it's a lot easier using a soda keg like a corny keg. But with that being said, I believe Keg Connection still has Sainty kegs. They're out of stock, I think. We sold them for a while. I believe we carried them from Amstel.
Yeah, we were selling them for to breweries. Yeah,
no, correct. That's why we hardly ever sold any on a consumer level. But anyways, I don't have a lot more to add to that except congratulations on switching from bottling to keg, my man.
Welcome to the good side. Welcome to the non-dark side.
Welcome to the we just lost 1,000 people now listening who are like, well, screw those guys. I'm gonna go bottle some beer now and clean bottles for an hour and a half. And whatever. Anyways, guys, that's all I've got for this week's show. I appreciate it. Todd, like I said, I'll see you next week with my kids. Hope you have something fun planned for them because they don't want to be bored at Mr. Todd's ranch.
Oh yeah, I got lots of work for them.
I told them that. So.
James, I'm ready to brew. I haven't brewed forever.
Why don't y'all brew tomorrow?
All this projects, and I can't. I got to finish the electrical for the apartment for my mother-in-law. And as soon as that's done, I'm going to brew. I'm going to brew a bunch. Yeah,
I am too. I'm going to brew a lager. I think
tomorrow.
Lager. No, it'll be. We'll wait until I think right now Joe said that he was having a hard time getting grains too. So
that's true.
Hopefully that starts to clear up. But
our grains are very fresh, by the way. Now,
extremely.
Usually when we send a recipe out, they've been here for about an hour. So
and he's not lying. I was there when last week the weekly grain thing came in, and some of the grains on there, he's like, man. Yeah, like I said, like we've said on the show before, it's weird how supply chain issues are affecting like everything in every industry and every part of our lives. It's nuts that some grains are like, oh yeah, they usually come weekly, and this one had to come a month later, or whatever. It's a wild time right now to be alive as a retailer for sure.
Yeah, it is.
So anyway, thank you guys so much for your time. I'll see y'all next week in person.
Thanks.
And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page. Or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. If you're wanting to take your brewing to the next level, go check out the sweet new Herm system available now at browtod.com. Or go directly to kegconnection.com/BRAUTAG and take advantage of the incredible introductory offer going on for a limited time. On behalf of Todd Burns, James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.